Okay. I will send you 500 for Sonda.
Thank
So
you. Thank you,
I think we
Stano.
are, yeah, I think we are live now. You can just continue.
And even Eston and Muruki and Deve are here and they can't wish me a happy birthday. What is wrong with you guys?
We never knew.
It's okay. Okay, so if you're ready, I am ready to start. So you can give me a thumbs up.
Okay, now we are live
You've
now
all
on
of you are ready.
YouTube. You can start. Yeah, now you
Oh,
can start.
okay. I hope my audio is good.
Very clear.
Yeah. Okay. So discussion, uh, today's discussion is about Immanuel Kant majorly, and we are looking at the critique of pure reason. So I hope everyone got the flyer, and we have some discussion topics to go through. And I'd like to start by introducing Kant, maybe a brief history. So Immanuel Kant was born in 1724 in Königsberg, Kaliningrad. It's in Russia, but at the time it was under the Prussian kingdom or something, or an extension of it. He was German, at least that's what history says. He was German. Um, he came from a modest, pious, and pietist family. I don't know what pietist family is. You can check it out in the dictionary. And his family instilled a strong sense of duty and discipline early in his childhood, which I presume influenced his works later on. He studied in the University of Königsberg, um, philosophy, but at the time it wasn't philosophy in general as we know it today. He studied epistemology. For those who don't know epistemology, it's the theory of knowledge. Um, he also studied ethics and morality. Yeah. His major influences are, I would say, his major influences David Hume. David Hume is a was a was a philosopher. Was one of the, what do we call them? Was one of those prominent English philosophers, or in philosophy we call them not continental, analytic. Yeah, analytic philosophers. Majorly analytic philosophers. The origins are English, and then the rest of the world we call them continental philosophers. So Kant's major work is on the limits of reason, and specifically the limits of pure reason. And he says, reason cannot transcend the bounds of possible experience. Attempts to use it prove the existence of God. Attempts to use it to prove the existence of God, immortality of the soul, or the infinity of the universe leads to irresolvable contradictions. So, to our first topic, all of them. To our first topic, reclaiming intellectual autonomy. So, using Kant's groundwork, we can argue that since God is outside the realm of possible experience, the claim of God's existence is inherently unverifiable, and thus the burden of proof lies solely with the claimer, or you can say, in this case, the theist. And looking at this, we can relate it to Kant's work on the limits of pure reason. And Let me quote again. He says, on the limits of pure reason, reason cannot transcend the bounds of possible experience. Attempts to use it to prove the existence of God, immortality of the soul, or the infinity of the universe lead to irresolvable contradictions. So I'll put it to you, to the floor, to you guys, to at least make make arguments, and let's discuss the topic one: reclaiming intellectual autonomy. Um, I would like Muriuki to respond first, or Almaestro can have the floor. Yeah, it's open to you guys. Please contribute.
What is the first question?
I'll repeat it. Yeah? Reclaiming intellectual autonomy. So my question is, how can we use Kant's formula to argue, or how can you use Kant's groundwork on the limits of pure reason to at least alleviate the burden of proof from those who are, let's say, defending their position of atheism and leaving it to the theist or the claimant to prove um, their claims.
I think for me, what I can normally say is that the burden of proof is the one who is claiming. And that is why, for me, sometimes, even if you can prove you cannot prove there is no negative hypothesis, sometimes I also try to escape or to run away from the negative hypothesis or from the making a claim or denying a claim. So for me, I can say we normally need to criticize and to give those who are claiming the burden.
Thanks, Tano. A little, I'd say a little help I can give you guys. Um, basically, Kant's major works are influenced by his, people called it the Copernican revolution, in which Kant argued that objects, or not objects, rather our world, or the world that we know it as it is separated into two different forms, and that is the phenomenal one and the noumenal one. So the phenomenal world is the world as it appears to us, structured by our senses and categories of our understanding. This domain, its main domain is science. Its main domain is science, while the noumenal world is the world as it is in itself, independent of our perception. So Kant's Copernican revolution stems from this, in which he argues that objects must conform to our knowledge, which is our mental structures, not the other way around. This emphasizes the active role of the mind in constructing reality as we experience it. So, give us your thoughts on this. Dorcas, please go ahead.
Okay, I'm still on the way. I've just stood at a corner. I hope nobody will come and mug me. Now, I have to admit here that Immanuel Kant is a complicated philosopher. And I skimmed through a number of podcasts or videos about the critique of reason. And some people were saying they tried to read his material and gave up because it's that convoluted. So I think it is imperative for us to acknowledge that fact, that these ideas are very abstract and they might become difficult to communicate if we don't simplify them to the basic level. So as the moderator has said, Immanuel Kant believed that there's a sensory dimension and there's a thinking dimension. So the world as we experience it is mediated by perception, by our sensory perception. And I think when it is applied to the subtopic, the first one which you have posed, how can we defend that aspect of us not needing to prove that God doesn't exist? I think there we can appeal to the aspect of experience and sensory perception, and we can say that because we do not experience God, we do not have proof for Him, sensory proof for that matter, because sensory proof is how we perceive things, then we can say that He doesn't exist. But here we are defending the aspect of the burden of proof, us not needing to defend, us not needing to prove that God doesn't exist. I think I would echo ex-pastor's sentiments, which is that the claimant is the person that makes the proof. So that shows the proof. So we don't need to, because we don't experience, we don't have the sensory experience of God. It's only in the realm of the imagination, of the brain, of the thinking part of the human that God exists. It's in the mind, it's not in reality, especially the sensory dimension. So I would start there. I would make that distinction, and then I would continue to talk about the burden of proof and say that any person who makes a claim is the one that needs to demonstrate it, is the one that needs to make to give evidence for it. A second component is in terms of a double standard that exists when a believer tosses the burden of proof to atheists. You know, when they tell you you can't prove God doesn't exist. Eh? It to me shows that this person is not willing to apply the same standards on themselves. They are not able to give us evidence, a sensory evidence of a God existing, but they expect atheists to give evidence of Him not existing. You see, they're applying double standards, and that's not fair. That's not how you reason logically, or that's not how you argue. Additionally, you cannot score through the universe or the earth for that matter to show that something doesn't exist, whether that thing is God, whether it is fairies, whether it is goblins, whether it is Dracula, whether, you cannot look through all the parts of the universe to confirm that a God does not exist. That's not how the burden of proof works. The burden of proof is always on the claimant. So that's how I would respond to it. Thanks.
Thanks, Dorcas. Anyone with another view? Okay, so okay, so we're looking at
Nikki, your questions is it's very technical. I cannot even answer it. I'm unable even to to
I
go through it.
apologize. I apologize,
Yeah,
El
but
Maestro.
okay. And
What I can say,
remember this men don't celebrate birthdays. Why are you asking us to sing for you a happy birthday?
no, you see, unlike you, I unlike you, I embrace both of my being, my feminine one and my masculine one. So I am not I am not even I am pitying you. You should read some Carl Jung and then yeah, you can get to talk.
No, it's on a
But
light note.
anyways,
It's on a light note.
but anyways,
It's on a light
I would
note.
like
Happy
to
birthday.
thank you so much. But to your point, I actually told Dorcas before we constructed this debate that Kant is one of the most annoying philosophers you can ever read, because you don't know what his point is. You think you know, but you don't know. So just bear with us. Even great philosophers have often argued that Kant is just crazy. Deve, please.
Thanks, Nikki. Hello, everyone. Now, my I know philosophy. When it comes philosophy to philosophy, let me just leave it there. But when he says that there are two worlds, the one that is and the one that we see. So if there is one that is, and we don't see it, we only see the one that we see. But anyway, for example, in the universe, there are areas that we haven't explored yet. We might know they exist, but we've not explored them yet. Or they are there that exist, and we don't yet have the technology to perceive them, to see them, to measure them, to perceive them. So I have got a little bit of a problem. The other one is when he says that what we see is what is there. No. There are people, depending on the people's minds, number one, there are people who see things. So what you see could depend on your state of mind. That therefore there could be some aberrations, some bends. I'll call them bends because it is what we see is what we interpret. It's subject to our interpretation, our experiences. So there is a little bit of a problem there, even with the simple perceptions of a tree. Some people see a tree and they see a nice thing, a good thing. Other people see a tree and they see we never know what they might see in a tree. So I'm just saying that we interpret our own, what we see, our own way, maybe happily or maybe unhappily, depending on our moods and our state of mind. Therefore, when it comes to the same thing with the interpretation of God, you can't say, you can't prove to me that Mount Everest doesn't exist. We have never had any arguments as to whether Mount Everest exists. Why? Because it is there. You go to Kathmandu, you're going to start seeing the mountain range and you can start climbing, and then people have to come and rescue you because you have made a very big error. But always it is the argument of the existence of God. Why? It is because it is subject to people's personal interpretation. Mount Everest is most people will agree that it is there. Not even Mount Everest. It's our Mount Kenya, our Mount Kilimanjaro. Many people will tell you that, oh, there, by the way, from where I grew up, we can always see straight from across the plains, and we see Mount Kilimanjaro. Nobody has got an argument as to its existence, even if you've not been there. It is there, you can see it, and you can actually go there. So when it comes to his philosophy, then I have got that kind of problem. And when it comes to theists, I have got this problem. Show me. I will show you Mount Everest. You show me God. And God is more everywhere than Mount Everest. So show me God, and I will show you Mount Everest. Thank you.
Great, David. Thank you. I think, David, out of everyone who's complaining, I think you've actually grasped what Kant is talking about. And kudos, by the way. I don't know if you've known it, but you've actually grasped what Kant is saying. But what I can add on from your point is, actually Kant's argument is, since our reason or human reason cannot transcend the bounds of possible experience. So if you're talking about the question of God, immortality, and the infinity of the universe as per their times, God is out of bounds of our possible experiences. So attempts to use God in our empirical oriented world leads to irresolvable contradictions, because God does not exist in the phenomenal world nor in the noumenal world, according to Kant. So actually, if we look at it, if we are looking to push the burden of proof, we should actually take it to the claimant, because according to Kant, or if you're using Kant's framework, we cannot test this theory because it's outside it's outside our range of possible experiences. So what I could say is, I guess what I could say is you guys should read more on the phenomenal world and noumenal world on Kant. And if I could give you a heads up or a tip about reading philosophy, just read it. Don't try to understand complex things. Just read it as if you're reading a book. It will come to you. If it doesn't, well, we don't have to force it. So I would like to go to the second question of our topic, and that is decolonizing the mind. And decolonizing the mind using Kant's framework, actually, it performs a dual critique. The first critique is about religious dogma, likely targeting both indigenous beliefs, for our case, because we're in East Africa and we are largely a religious country, and our imported beliefs, the Abrahamic faiths, Islam, and Christianity. So, positions. So, the next one is colonial dogma. And this positions Kant not as a Western icon to be revered, but as a tool or methodology for critical thinking. So what is his argument? His argument is, just as one should question colonial impositions, one should also question religious dogma using the same critical framework. It's ironical because if we use this, we'll be using a Western framework to decolonize the mind from all unchallenged authority. In quote, or you can put it in, you can insert in brackets, in our case, Western authority. So, if we are to, so a question to you guys on this topic, because a little brief history that I didn't tell you guys was that Kant was actually a racist, and he was actually a racist, and he was a deist to some extent. He had some personal deism that he wrestled with. So, with this in mind, are the aspects of Kant's own views, for example, his personal deism and his views on race, complicate his use as a tool for decolonization? I'll reiterate the question again. Are the aspects of Kant's own views, for example, his personal deism and his views on race, complicate his use as a tool for decolonization? You could take the floor. Muriuki, I see your hand up, please.
Okay, thanks, Nikki. By racist, can you please explain more? How racist was he? Give examples of his racism. What were his comments about race?
Well, Muriuki, you likely forced me to Google, but I don't want to Google because it will take time. Just think of this. Kant was born in Russia, in the 18th century, and he was a German. He was living in Russia during that time. If you're looking at 18th century Germany, 18th century Europe, I mean, historically it was racist, because he viewed some races as, he viewed his race largely as superior, and he viewed other races as inferior, intellectually speaking, which means if it affects the socioeconomic dynamics. It also affects the political dynamics, interests, environmental implications. So basically, he was just in the same breed of those 18th, 19th century Germans who thought that, they are better than others due to their race or something like that. So based on this, that's where we found his racism. Yeah. And also, he also had a view, he also had a low view of women. I mean, philosophers shouldn't surprise you of this. Yes, El Maestro, please respond.
Okay. Even though if he was a racist or he was a deist, but now if we dismiss his views based on that, that becomes fallacious. If we is like we are attacking, we are dismissing his views based on his character that has nothing to do with his views. Like even today, someone might have very good views on one topic, but in another topic, his views are dogmatic or are they just don't make sense. You know, maybe you should not expect someone to be perfect in every sector he gives a view. So like there's some people very very good professors, but very intelligent, but when it comes to religion, the their critical thinking is washed away. So even though he was a racist, but you know now those days racism actually began to be less and less when in the later years of 20th century and this and in this century. So if he was born in those times, I'm less surprised that he was racist, because those days is like they never knew what other races can do, or what they just viewed them as I don't know what, but that's how things were those days for us who are not white. Yeah.
Well, Elmaster, don't sell yourself short. I mean, wisdom is something that is practical and it is something that you practice. So there's no one born intelligent. That is what I can say. Dorcas, before you respond, I would like to add another question to the panel. What are the practical steps for decolonizing the mind on an individual and societal level? I repeat, what are the practical steps for decolonizing the mind on an individual and societal level? I expect everyone who is here to answer this question. Thank you. Dorcas, you may have the floor. Hello, Dorcas, you there?
Hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Actually, we're waiting on you. Just go ahead.
Okay. All right. Before I answer that question, let me answer the original question, which was decolonizing the mind as an offshoot, as a byproduct of the critique of pure reason. I think using the same logic that Ndeve applied when responding to the previous question, where she said, we don't ever have to prove that a mountain exists because our sensory experiences allow us to settle that debate. There's no debate actually, because the sensory experiences do the work. Likewise, when it comes to religion, our sensory experiences show that there is no God. The concept of God is packaged in the form of religion. And religion, especially in the African context, was shaped by the colonialists. What we had previously were spiritual practices. You know, when we call it African traditional religion, it's maybe an application of the European lens. But we didn't really have religion per se in that systemic way that it is practiced in the Western world. We had spiritual practices, we had rituals here and there, but it was not systemic the way it's envisioned in the Western sphere. Now, when the colonialists came, they had their agenda. They wanted to dominate us as Africans, of course, and other colonized people around the world. But I'm speaking from our perspective specifically. They wanted to dominate us. They wanted to exert power over us. And in order to do so, they needed strategies. One very clever and effective strategy was religion. As we said, there is no sensory experience of God. It is conceptualized in the mind. It is coming out of reason. But as Immanuel Kant said, reason is not sufficient. You have to combine thinking with sensory experience. So, because there is no sensory experience, there is no God, then it is the person who comes up with these concepts, these religious concepts, that carries the day. So for Christianity, when it came to our motherland, it was a tool of domination. The colonialist emphasized aspects of their faith, of Christianity, which require you to subjugate yourself to authorities. They focused on all those verses, like give Caesar what is Caesar's. Slaves, obey your masters. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. They emphasize those aspects. If you don't believe me, look for the letter from King Leopold to Congolese missionaries. It was accidentally forgotten in a Bible where an African person stumbled upon it and realized the evil-handed nature of missionary work. It was touted as something positive, but it was not. So let me complete that point, my train of thought on that one. They used religion in order to advance their agenda and their interests at our expense as Black people. They taught us that we are inferior beings. All that is good and right and perfect with the world is white. Black things, African things are to be shunned. African names, forget. If you are a Morioki, if you are a Ndeve, if you are an Atieno, they replace it with a Christian name. If you worship or you engage in those rituals that acknowledge your local gods, your tribal gods, you are to shun that. Yeah. If the food you eat, African food, was made to seem inferior, everything African was supposed to be abandoned as soon as you came in contact with the missionaries. And as I had said before in another Zoom meeting, missionaries were in charge of education, they were in charge of schools. So in order for you to get an education, the condition was for you to abandon your culture. And religion often, or religious practices, as I said, African traditional religion is a term used by colonialists. It should actually be African traditional spirituality. It wasn't a religion per se, but just for the sake of understanding, I'll use African traditional religion. It was an aspect, it was a colonial instrument. It was used to make us inferior. It was used to erase our sense of self, our identities, and it wasn't even supported by sensory experience. It's just something that is created by reason, which Immanuel Kant challenged, he critiqued. So that's my long and short to that question. Thank you.
Wow, Dorcas, thank you. Thank you. You've given us much context to think about. So Based on actually what you've said about the Belgians and the whatever, what do you call them, the missionaries. I think that was a very good point. I think Muruki wants to add on something. Muruki, please.
Yeah, thanks, Nikki. I want to answer your question about decolonizing the mind. How do you decolonize the mind? You just do research, ask for evidence, and see how the past relates to the present and the future. Thanks.
Muruki, could you like give us more context? I mean, it sounds like, I mean, your method sounds like something easy, but give us some context, elaborate.
Yeah,
So what do we read? What do we research? How do we research? How do we do it? Give us the how. Give us the how.
like you see, like for religion, there are so many religions. So already there's a question mark. There are so many religions showing that something man-made. Already that's if you do research and find they are similar but different, it shows it's something man created. So if you research on religion, you'll see it's made by man. That's what I mean. God is man-made because every community has a kind of God. So this thing came from the human mind. It's not real.
Okay. But
Yeah.
don't you think that argument could also be used by someone who's defending his religion against someone who's against another religion? Because your point can also be used within religion itself. So I'm looking at not adopting another thing because you're losing this one. I'm looking at how do you say the steps? You see, you're saying research, but what about life personally? Do I stop?
Yeah.
Do I stop looking at these clothes as fashionable? Do I go back to my roots? Do I invent something? Do I form another parallel? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
But
Do food,
Nikki,
the
you
type
said
of friends I hang out with.
yeah, Nikki, you said decolonize the mind. Decolonize the mind. How do
Yeah,
you
but
how do you do? Yeah.
yes, but don't you practice something? I mean, the mind informs the body, does it not?
Yeah.
So actually, so decolonizing the mind, it's not about actually the mind, it's about our worldview, our perception, how we perceive things, how we react to our perceptions, what informs our senses, what informs our decision based on our perceptions through our senses. That's what I'm looking for. So
So
maybe
Nikki,
they just sit a
Nikki,
little. Yeah.
yeah. So Nick, so I said research and evidence. Period. That's it. Research and
Okay.
evidence. Nothing
Okay.
more.
I'll have it at your word. Neve, if you have something.
Thanks. I will add, or rather, I will come from this view that questioning some of the information that we have is questioning some of the views that we hold dear can be a start. And I'm saying a start because the older generation, you younger people, you grew up when questioning was more acceptable. Other older people grew up at a time where you didn't question anything. Questioning ilikuwa ni kiherehere. Utachapwa na hiyo kiherehere yako. So if the younger generation, when they are learning their ABCs, when they are learning to say mama and papa, they learn to say the word why, how, when, who. If they can be allowed that dimension, the dimension of questioning just anything and not be punished for it, then we can start decolonizing or emancipating ourselves from, I will call it mental slavery. Then it can be a start. I'm not saying that will be the end, but it is where we can start. And then we can unravel many of the things that we have been told as if they were facts. just because we didn't question. What I believe is that when one person dares question something, you will be surprised how many people will be able to bring a different question and another view and another view. Like there will be as many views as there are in that room. But sometimes you go to a chief's meeting, you go to a meeting of people, and they are given information, they just swallow it. Hakuna mtu atakuja with a question. Then you ask yourself, did they even understand this information? Because when you understand, the first thing that comes out ni maswali. When you really understand a situation, when it comes is ni maswali. And that is how wengine mulisoma Biblia, tukasoma Biblia mara nyingi, then we understood it, and then the maswalis, they will never end. Because every time you look at a chapter or you read something comes. In fact, the other day I was listening to somebody talking, I think it was Exodus or something. And then he said something like, God starts Exodus with a lie. I'm like, I never saw that. I have yet to read it to see that God starts Exodus with a lie, or somewhere where I think it has something to do with the Pharaoh. Go do this to the Pharaoh, and it was a lie. So that is why the more you read or understand something, the more questions, and you start asking yourself, why is God lying? I thought but that was maybe before the commandments. God keeps changing. But anyway, yeah. So if we can allow ourselves, every time you are told something or you see something really important that is going to affect your life, ask yourself, is it really true? I guess that is just how we sharpen our critical thinking. We are not saying that critical thinking is something that we are born with. It is just something that we have and we sharpen. Thank you.
Thanks, David. That was a very great response. I can see someone that I've not seen in a very long time, and I'd like him to add on something because I've seen him. He's been here since the beginning. Shadrach, would you like to comment? Maybe you'd like to stay silent. Shadrach, can you hear me? I guess he's shy. So
Yes, I can, but I prefer to listen.
Okay. Just say hi. Don't just stay silent in the background. You can say hi. Moving on. Our third question, and this one is I actually loved this question as I formulated it, and it's all about morality. So our third discussion topic was, how do we build a secular morality that is independent of religious or religion? How do we do this? This is a common theistic argument that morality is impossible without God. I mean, if any one of you guys knows Socrates or Plato's work, you've read about the Euthyphro dialogue, where he asks, is something good because God commands it, or does God command something because it is good? And we look at Kant's work, and Kant's groundwork for the metaphysics of morals and his concept of the categorical imperative. If you've never heard of this, I think you should write it down. The categorical imperative. And the categorical imperative is a premier example of rigorous duty-based moral system that is entirely secular, based on reason and universalism rather than divine command. So let me repeat. The categorical imperative is a premier example of rigorous duty-based. Remember, Kant was raised in a pious pietist family, which instilled duty in his young age, duty and discipline in his young age. So this is the classic concept of separating the artist from his work, so we can see where his work stems from. But aside from that, the categorical imperative is a premier example of rigorous duty-based moral system that is entirely secular, based on reason and universalism rather than divine command. And the categorical imperative states, and I quote, act only according to that maxim whereby you can at the same time will that it should become universal law. I repeat, and I quote, act only according to the maxim whereby you can at the same time will that it should become universal law. So the categorical imperative has three parts. The first part is act whereby act only according to that maxim, act only according to that maxim whereby you can. The second part, at the same time. And the third part is, will that it should become universal law. So if I may simplify it, he says, act morally whenever you can, wherever you are. And it should always be the same thing, or your moral should always be the same thing at the same time, which means always at the same time you should apply this moral code exactly as it is always at the same time, and that it should become universal law, which means that even if I am practicing this, let's say I'm practicing some moral or some ethical practices. If I'm in Kenya right now and I'm actually using the categorical imperatives, it means if I'm in Kenya and I'm doing something and it is moral, you see, always at the same time I should act morally. And at the same time, if there's someone in Europe, he should see what I'm doing as morally accurate all the time, so that whether I'm in Kenya or someone is in Europe, that moral act which I have performed becomes universally acknowledged and it becomes universal law. Thank you. If you've not understood it, please ask me to reiterate. So with that, let me go on to a question, a focus question. How can a Kantian inspired secular morality be effectively communicated and embraced in communities with strong religious traditions? Again, how can a Kantian inspired secular morality be effectively communicated and embraced in communities with strong religious traditions? Please, anyone who's willing to take the floor, but we'll start with Muriuki. Muriuki, you have the floor.
Thanks, Nikki. For me, I'll just say one sentence. Do unto others as you'd want them do unto you. Period. Just that. Thanks.
Now, Muriuki, that is a part of their categorical imperative, actually. Do unto others what you'd like to be, you'd like it to be done to you.
Yeah. Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
That's
But,
it.
So the categorical imperative goes on to extend, do it at always. It should be consistent at all times. It should be consistent at all times. And it should become universal law, whereby what you practice here and it is considered moral in USA, in Pakistan, in North Korea, it is still the same constant law. Dorcas, take it away.
Okay. Actually, this question ties into the discussion we had last week when we were looking at ethical exceptions: stealing, killing, and lying. Before we gave our ethical exceptions, I recall asking the members, why do we want a society in which there's less lying, there's less stealing, and there's less killing? So we started with the positive proposition, and then we went to the ethical exceptions. And the answer lies right there. We need a society in which there is minimal stealing, killing, lying, and many other vices. We just picked those three because maybe they're the commonest or the most pressing. And we concluded that society would fall apart if stealing were rampant. If I was worried that when I leave my shop unattended for 2 minutes to rush to the washroom, that I'm going to find all of my equipment gone, all of my merchandise gone, then people will lose the incentive to work, production will go down, there won't be individuals to feed each other because we are all just paralyzed by the stealing. And we would be a very poor country. Look at the case study of Haiti. So it's the same reasoning with Kantian ethics. And I had told you guys before that I am a partial Kantian ethicist. The reason why I call myself partial is because it gets to a point where Immanuel Kant is too extreme with that categorical imperative. You know, he tells you that you need to follow an act. You need to use that law. Okay, how do I put it? Words are escaping me. So you need to follow a certain principle to its bitter end because you're supposed to act as though you are creating a moral law. So in exceptional cases, even the case of something like a Nazi soldier coming to you and telling you to show them where you're hiding a Jew. Let's say it was during the Holocaust, and you are you are a neutral citizen. You're neither a Jew, neither are you a Nazi, but you are hiding a Jew, and the Nazi soldier comes knocking at your door. According to Kantian ethics, you should always tell the truth. You should always stick to that moral principle because you are creating a universal law. So because lying, if lying became a universal law, society would fall apart. So you should always tell the truth, even if that leads to dire consequences. So in such extreme cases, I abandon my Kantian ethics. But in non-extreme cases, I think it's a very reasonable law for creating secular morality. Not reasonable law, but reasonable method for creating secular morality. Whenever you are presented with an ethical dilemma, a moral dilemma, ask yourself, if everybody else behaved this way, because this is a universal moral law, if everybody behaved this way, how would society be? Would it be better or worse off? So, for instance, if you are a driver at a weighbridge, you meet a corrupt policeman. He asks you for a bribe. At that point, when you're contemplating whether to give the bribe or not, the morality of that act, you follow the categorical imperative. You ask yourself, if everybody else gave bribes at Weybridges, or even if it's not Weybridges, but to every policeman they met, because it was a universal law. It was a law, you're supposed to follow it everywhere. You give a bribe. What would happen to society? Would it be worse off or better off? Definitely worse off. We would be poorer, we would be unable to plan our economic activities because you don't know whether you'll meet the policeman or not. And we'd be underproductive. It would just be a worse off society if giving policemen bribes was a moral law. So you don't give them a bribe because of the categorical imperative. But despite all those many words, I can say my overall response to how to create a secular morality in this context is to focus on the harm or the benefit that any act creates. So I ask myself, homosexuality, is it moral or immoral? Yeah. And using the well-being standard. Secular morality is founded on well-being, which is also a sensory experience. Yes, it aligns with this topic of the critique of reason. So, does something enhance well-being or does it degrade well-being? And homosexuals don't harm anyone. They are two consenting adults. They're two consenting adults. There's no issue. Actually, the people that harm others in the homosexual context are the homophobes. So in secular morality, if you use the standard of well-being, you would see that there's nothing wrong with being gay. Okay? And any other controversial issue, gun laws. Should gun laws be permitted or not? Are they moral or not? So would society be better off or worse off if people can randomly have firearms? And in my view, they are worse off. Society is worse off when we allow gun ownership arbitrarily. So using that basis, the basis of well-being, we create secular morality. Thank you.
Wow. Actually, I was hoping someone would catch on the individuation of Kantian morality. I'm glad Dorcas caught on. Clearly, Kant is a very stressing figure to think about. So I would like to pose this question to you guys. Do you think skeptics and humanists can come up with an elaborate moral system in which can steer on the moral discussions from the 21st century, from where we are, let's say, to the next generations? And I want you to think of it as if today, let's say the world, if we wake up to tomorrow and we realize that everyone in the world has agreed that we should disband the laws that we're living along with, and maybe we should give it to the humanists and the secularists to develop their own moral framework or moral codes. How successful do you think this endeavor might be, or how disastrous do you think it might be, based on humanistic and secular perception of the world? Anyone? Yes, Muriuki.
Thanks. For me, it would be great You see, because you won't find things like Nigeria right now. There are Christians being killed by Muslims. So if it's something secular, there's no need for a belief system. It's just action or inaction. So for me, it will be much better because you're following logic and reason, not belief or so-called faith. So it's more powerful than a religion to me. There'll be no suicide bombers like Muslims do it. You can't go and kill yourself because of God. You either do good or you do bad. Thanks.
Okay, Muriuki. David?
Thank you. In my view, secular morals or doing something which is intrinsic, it's coming from you yourself. There's nobody holding a stick or at you or making you afraid, making you do something by fear. You are doing it by your will. It's one of the most wonderful things because I have seen workers, people just working for a pay, and I have seen volunteers, people who wamejitolea tu, they are not going to be paid anything. And when you see the zeal with which volunteers do something, you are just baffled at the human being. So I would say anything that we are doing out of humanity is just the most wonderful thing. And that can explain why the most religious societies struggle. They struggle even with all that fear that their religious books and God exerts upon them. It just does not do anything to their moral. It doesn't do that. Fear doesn't do anything. You are just left asking yourself. But the human being is amazing. And so for me, I say this: for the humanists and atheists, it's okay. We work with our own morals. We work with intrinsic morals. But for religious people, guys, be happy. Just be happy and let them stay. Let most of those people stay in religion because there's nothing else holding them to be moral. It is just that little fear. It's the only thing that is holding to their moral. So some people ought to actually stay in religion. And for yourself, if you have tried to extricate yourself and work your own morals, and you are doing this just out of your own thing that you've worked what morals are, hey, I think it is the best thing. That is my opinion. Thank you.
Thanks, David. But stay with me because I'm coming back to you. El Maestro?
Yes, I agree with what Muriuki and what Levi have said. It will be actually the laws will be if it were left for the humanists and secular people, the law it will be much better because the laws would not be coming from a certain book like the way the religious people do. It will not be coming from a certain book that it is about belief. No, it will be coming from critically analyzing the situation and if this and that happens, what happens next, critically and in scientific reasoning and put them into law, not about beliefs that you should do this and that because a certain book says this and that, and then put it into law, because there are a lot of retrogressive things that happen just because it was written in a book. For example, our Somali brothers here, who the law was passed that you should not marry a girl that is above 18, that is below 18 years, and they protested, and 24 hours later the law was overturned. It's just so sad. It was so sad to hear. So it would be much better if the laws was made by the humanists and secular people. Yeah, thank you.
You know, what I find quite interesting is while researching on this topic, I came across a certain, I don't know, the religious people call it what do we call it? What did what do we call it? Is it premonition or what did I say? A revelation, sorry. A revelation, guys. I had this revelation, as the religious people say, that most of those people that have shaped our world today, those that we know of, and I'm talking about society, politics, economics. If you look at their works, if you look at what they taught, what they wrote, and specifically, if you guys are familiar with Karl Marx, you actually realize what they want, actually, what they preach is not actually what they practice, because a large number of times, if you look at their backgrounds and you look at what they were fighting for, and you look at and you look at the actions, they're actually direct opposites. So it comes back to that. If you ever had this saying that those who wish heaven on earth invariably make it hell, and don't you think that us as secularists and humanists pushing a worldview that is non-religious, as we say, and our moral and ethics um, um, being secularist and humanistic, do you think we might fall into that trap as history comes to repeat itself, where we would come to raise a crusade against the religious and purge religion along with it? Do you feel that we might fall into such a trap? Let's say we wake up tomorrow and skeptics and atheists movements are being registered left, right, and center, and funds are pouring in, and groups, and just like how politicians and agendas are being lobbied, and ultimately they become law, and they become daily life. Think about it, and then please, I would like to hear your responses. Yes, Muruki, I see you. Take it away.
Thanks, Nikki. I think my view is the reason people are religious is not the moral aspect; it's a comfort aspect. That's my view. Like, people believe in religion not to do good or bad, to feel that God loves me, Jesus loves me, there's an afterlife. That's the reason. It's not the moral part. So I think we should note that it's a comfort zone, not so much the morals things.
Miruki, I don't know if you understood my question. I'm saying, let's look at the world as the religious people. We are actually getting more power, and we are getting more, more of what we want. We are fighting for being acknowledged, and then the world shifts into a skeptic and humanistic world. Do you see us falling into that trap where we come and become the very things that we fight against?
Okay,
Dorcas?
Nikki, sorry. Just a point. Like David said, even with right now, like in Kenya, it's very religious, but it doesn't work. There's still corruption, there's still crime. It doesn't work. So human is human. It will be the same, I think. There'll be laws, but they'll be broken by human beings. Thanks.
Miruki, I don't feel like you get me. I don't know. Maybe let's see it from Dorcas.
So, Nikki is creating a hypothetical situation in which atheists have turned the scales in their favor. Imagine a world where atheists are the ones in charge. We are not the minority.
Dorcas,
Yes.
Dorcas, before you continue, I just like to say thank you for I don't know what for simplifying. Thank you so much. You may continue.
Karibu. So, yes, imagine a world where the reverse statistics are true, where atheists are in charge, atheists hold the tools or the reins of power, and atheists are the ones that create laws. Would we do the same thing that religious people are doing by using atheism as a tool of oppression? I put it to you, this has already happened in our history as humanity. It has happened. By the way, I just finished reading 1984 by George Orwell, and I also read Animal Farm. Both books were inspired by anti-communist ideas because there was communism at the time, and the communism that was practiced in the Soviet Union was synonymous with tyranny. Additionally, that communism also went hand in hand with atheism because religion was perceived to be a threat to the supremacy of the state. It is the state that is the supreme being and the state leader in that respect. So anything that threatens that power must be eliminated, or it must be reduced as much as possible. Religion was regarded as one such threat in the Soviet Union. That is why the state used to clamp down on religious establishments or religious groups. So it is possible for atheists to be tyrannical. Don't think we are perfect good people. We are not. However, we can guard against that if we rest our morality and our moral laws on logic, reason, and well-being. The moment it is about dogma, it is about a certain agenda, then we've lost the plot. The moment we shun critical thinking, the moment we shun questioning, we should always welcome questioning. We should always use persuasion as a means of getting people on board. You don't use tyranny. Okay? So let's always have that as the foundation. Advancing well-being, using critical thinking and rationality. Then we can never go wrong with secular morality. But the moment that goes out the window and we start focusing primarily on a certain ideology, on a certain agenda, then, oh gosh, all hell will break loose. So I think that would be my response. Let's learn from history. The beauty about knowing our history as human beings is that we learn the lessons and avoid repeating them in the future. So let's learn from the Soviets, who are an atheist government that was tyrannical in nature. Let us allow freedom of thought and ideas, even if those ideas seem ridiculous to us, like religion is ridiculous. But I respect people's right to believe in ridiculous ideas. Thank you.
Thank you, Dorcas. And Eva, I see you, and I'll put you up next. But actually, I have a funny story. Dorcas has just reminded me. Actually, I read Animal Farm in Kiswahili because there's a certain writer. I don't know is he Kenyan or Tanzanian, I don't know, but his He's actually copied George Orwell's work and is written it in Kiswahili. So people actually don't know. I read it in high school. They gave us as a set book in Form 1. And they told us that they'll examine it, but they didn't. And funny enough is actually when I went to read George Orwell's now Animal Farms, then is the time I realized actually I already read it, you know. So yeah, that's actually a funny story that just came up. Deve?
Yes, thank you. The idea that atheists and humanists would turn and become dogmatic just because they have the numbers, of course, is not impossible, because unless we didn't know human behavior enough, particularly when people have the mass, the critical mass, to call themselves the majority, the behavior usually just changes, and then the minority better turn around and run. And I'm hoping that the secular and the atheists and the humans would have enough numbers among them to recognize they are going into dogma and changing their humanity. They are losing their humanity. I'm just hoping that there would be some numbers among us that would recognize that we are losing our humanity, and our morality is no longer intrinsic, it's no longer universal, because once that universality of morality is lost, then you are just you become just another religion. You just say, well, humans, women, wear hijab or do behave like a woman, or else then then we will have, or we say huku kwetu, or rather in our place, in our country or in our culture, women are supposed to do this. Then we have lost the universality in that case. And it is possible. Well, Animal Farm and other books that have studied humanity can show that. Thank you.
Thanks, Dev. That's a very great insight. Muriuki?
Thanks, Nikki. May I ask Doc a question, please?
Yeah, you may.
Yeah, Doc, as I'm asking about the Soviets, can we say it was more like power and politics? That was influenced by power and politics, not just the morals. It's a thing of, it was more political. Is that accurate? Thanks.
Yes, absolutely. And I think the moment politics just messes things up, there's a way it's the opposite of the Midas touch. When you touch, everything you touch turns to gold. Now this one, everything you touch turns to that. Politics, everything it touches turns to that. The reason why religion has caused so many evils in our history as humanity is because it partnered with politics. So if secular morality, if humanists or atheists started becoming political, we are just going to muddy the waters. So yeah, that
Yeah,
applies.
so maybe Soviets failed because of politics. That's why they became that way, because of politics. If you don't have politics, it would have been a smooth run, right?
Well, primarily, I believe it is a political ideology. Their political ideology was communism. That was the main culprit. But one of the tools of oppression was atheism. They wanted everybody to become atheist by force. Like if you are a believer, if you are religious and you organized yourselves, you had meetings and what have you, you would be liable to state action. So it was a tool. I'm not saying it was the primary reason. I'm not saying atheism was the primary reason. Communism was, a political ideology was, but atheism was definitely a tool.
So Dorcas, but like for us at SAS-K, we can do it with no force. Like this group of ours, we can just be ourselves with no force because there's no politics. Sindio?
Mm-hmm. Yes, and let's allow, we allow divergent opinions here. We allow questioning. We use logic and critical thinking. There you can't go wrong. Thanks.
I'm done, Nikki. Thanks. I'm done.
Okay. Actually, I can see there's someone actually who joined the meeting while we were discussing what we were discussing. I don't know if they'd like to respond to anything we've been talking about. Oh, they've disappeared. Okay. They've disappeared. Anyways, you see, I was, while reading Kant, I was actually intrigued, because Kant talks about the limits of reason, and people actually, this is what this is what I actually shared with Dorcas, while during a confidential phone call, that Christian apologists largely they like to use Kant because Kant, you actually don't know if Kant actually his phenomenal and nominal work separates um, what can we say, what can we say, separates various forms of existence. So actually he actually acknowledges that we cannot question the metaphysical, the God questions, on our plane, on our terms, because we can't test him on our terms. You see, but if you read more into him, he talks about a transcendent or transcendental forms. You see, and actually there you can create. There's a room where you can create God, and you can actually use Kant's general hypothesis on transcendental forms, where you can create God, and actually you can say, since he says there's various forms of existences, and there's possible outcomes, you see, there's possible experiences. The religious people have a valid reason for God because they say that you have to, that begs the question where you have to be open-minded, you see. And if you're not open-minded, people will say, you see, you're telling us to be open-minded about atheism, but when we tell you you can be open-minded about this because you see, there's a way where we can create God, and we can actually justify him, our creation. And you can, if you look at modern Christian apologists, they like to use Kant. Maybe they don't, the smart ones, they don't invoke his name, so you cannot actually know that they're using Kantian philosophy against you. But when you find someone telling you, when someone, let's say, questions you see, you cannot certainly know, you see, you cannot, because even if you use logic and reason, you can't know, you see. So the Gnostics who say, you can't actually know, you can't actually say, you can't put the definitive that yes, there is no God, or you can't put the the definitive that yes, there is a God. You see, there where there's the limit where we actually concede and say that, you know, maybe there is, maybe there is no. And that is where Kant actually comes in, because Kant actually sits on the border and says you can have this and you can also have this. So if you guys have actually been having a hard time maybe reading Kant, it's because Kant is actually contradicting himself while confirming the same contradictions. So has anyone felt that way while reading Kant, or maybe am I the only one, or maybe I'm just observing something else? Anyone? Yes, Dorcas. Dorcas, yes.
Oh, I was trying to unmute. Now, indeed, I share those sentiments, Mr. Moderator. I feel like Immanuel Kant is one big ball of confusion. When you read his larger seminal work, it's very confusing. I used to approach Immanuel Kant from the ethical perspective, and I had internalized the 4 categorical imperatives, and they really made sense to me. But then I discovered another aspect of Immanuel Kant that just made it so confusing. I think my largest beef with Immanuel Kant when it comes to this topic is just that idea of challenging reason, the critique of reason. I am wary of someone who comes to me and tells me, stop thinking, just believe, just follow. We had a spiritualist among us some years back. I think that was in 2022, back before we started streaming our meetings on YouTube. And we were talking about spirituality in general. She had come prepared with a PowerPoint presentation. She was making the case for spirituality. And she told us that the problem with us atheists, and I'm specifically talking about the naturalists or the materialists, those who do not believe in the supernatural, she was saying, is that we think too much. Don't think, don't reason, just feel. Just let your experiences run the show, and you will see that spirituality is real. Feelings. So she was telling us to prioritize feelings instead of facts, instead of logic. Be wary of people like that who tell you, don't think. Yeah, you know, even the Bible itself has that kind of that line of thinking where it tells you that books, reading philosophical books, wearies the mind, and it's not the answer. Jesus is the answer. Yeah, stop thinking, just believe, or just feel, just focus on your sensory experiences. The problem is our perceptions often deceive ourselves, and that is why we look to research, we look to other instruments that can verify these sensory experiences, and then we apply logic in figuring them out. So when somebody comes to me and tells me, yeah, I don't have to reason out a thing, I can hold a position based on just my sensory experiences, I pause, I take a pause. I'm not so eager to follow them in that respect. So that was my initial misgiving towards Immanuel Kant. When you shared this topic with us, Mr. Moderator, I was like, so Kant has an issue with reason. What? It's supposed to be a mark of honor and intellectualism when you're reasoning. So, yeah, that's my perspective on him as a philosopher.
Thank you, Dorcas. Deve, and actually, Deve, before you speak, you usually claim that philosophical discussions always go way over your head. But actually, I'm actually surprised that actually you're getting philosophy. So, Deve, I think you are lying to me when you came with that. I wouldn't want to say fake. I would deceptive approach. Deve, I see you. Okay, you may have the floor.
All right, thank you. There is a reason why I say that with the philosophy. It is because it gets it gets me. Kuna mahali inanichanganya anyway. For example, here is Descartes, the French guy says, "I think, therefore I am," and we know you can't stop. It's kind of hard to not think. Why can you not think? It is just what we are. And then here is Kant telling us, or spiritualists telling us not to think. So if you don't think, it means that you are just following something without throwing any little, which we can do that. We will think. We will think. We will think things, whether you are thinking the right way or not. So weighing philosophers and what they say and what I feel, it's maybe that's where the fun is, and I'm afraid of that kind of fun. But I think I think we will think because we are, and the thinking, our thinking, I think it is what religious people call the soul or the spirit. But we do know it is just us working through life, working through the natural world, the natural life that we have. Because once we are not here, we're not. You cannot say that, here are Neve's opinions. She's no longer there. She has no opinion, so she can't think because she is not. So therefore, I think, therefore I am. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Dorcas, I don't know. Was the time supposed to? Was it supposed to end at 10? I don't know.
Yes, it was.
So I'm on time.
Indeed, Mr.
Well,
Birthday Boy.
Thank you so much. Thank you for reminding me. Actually, I was scared because I usually tend to overindulge whenever philosophy is mentioned. So I am actually glad that I'm on time. With that, actually, it has got me thinking, actually, and I've actually written the first page. I'm actually writing a piece on African philosophy, and I would like your help, guys. So I'm researching on African philosophers, and maybe if you have time, that's what I'm requesting. If you have time, you can maybe write something, maybe something about your community, and maybe you can write it in your vernacular language, and then maybe in English or Kiswahili, any language you're comfortable with, so I can get maybe a translation, so I can actually see it from the perspective of maybe those communities, from your eyes. Yeah, and if maybe I managed to write a few pages. Why not give you guys credit? Yeah, so maybe think about it. You can text me on WhatsApp if maybe you are interested. Events team, maybe you could push that message for me in the group. I would really appreciate it. Yeah. What can I say? And actually, the title will be African Philosophy because I've been actually searching on African philosophy all books. I'm not finding any. So maybe SAS-K, we should pick it up, and I will gladly take that mantle for you guys. Actually, it's been a great fun. Moderating for you guys on my birthday. I actually sacrificed my day so that I could do this for you guys. It's not me being narcissistic or sociopathic or anything, but thank you. I just feel great on my birthday. So thank you guys. Thank you for attending this meeting. It's been an honor and a pleasure as always. Dorcas, maybe you may take the floor from me.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moderator, Nikki, for that immense sacrifice. Oh my gosh, I can imagine how you feel as a birthday boy doing a Zoom meeting on philosophy. Akioye, while you should be.
Imagine the best birthday present ever. Imagine one of the most remarkable birthdays I've ever had. Thank you so much.
Wow. Anyway, this is one of the sensory experiences Immanuel Kant was talking about. One person would interpret it very differently. But him is grateful because he loves philosophy. So please, members, tomorrow we are meeting for our physical hangout at Ngong Road Forest Sanctuary. Off Ngong Road, you alight at Kennel. When you use a number 111 or a vehicle going to Ngong, you tell them that you are going to alight at Kennel. So when we get there, I have confirmed that Nikki will join us. Please bring him a little something for this sacrifice that he has made.
Or M-Pesa, my hood is not that great. You know, if they find me with presents, you might hear the last of me. So bring something light and heavy, but light. Thank you. Thank you.
Heavy but light, paradox to the highest degree. Yes, indeed, please. We are so grateful you've presided over this session like a pro. Indeed, your reputation precedes you as a philosophy major. Yeah, he has studied this academically. It isn't just a fun thing that he's done. He has gone to school for it. He has had lecturers teaching philosophy, and he has debated them, especially on the God question. So it's an honor that he chose to moderate this discussion. Thank you all who did some research on it. It's always a learning opportunity for us. Even those difficult thinkers like Immanuel Kant, they push us to become better intellectuals. So thank you for giving us that challenge. Thank you all the people that participated. I think El Maestro who said something. Hello?
Doctor.
Yes, Morioke, I see you.
Yeah,
I see
we be at the stage, all of us, then we work together to be safe. We don't walk one by one. We go at the stage, we come together, then we walk for safety. Remember last time what happened? So no one should walk alone to the place. Be at the stage where we can meet. Ama.
So let's figure that out on the group, on the events team. And then if that's the way forward, we'll share it with the members. Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
So, yeah, to all the people that participated in this discussion, I had a little from El Maestro, a little from Ex-Pastor. I had a lot from Deve, from the moderator himself, and some questions here and there from Morioki. Those were very engaging, and I'm grateful. There are some people who made a technical appearance, like Chilwave and Shadrach, but they left probably because of some external uncontrollable circumstances. Maybe next time they'll be able to join us throughout. So yes, once again, we are meeting at 2 p.m. Gong Road Forest. If we decide to meet at the stage, we'll do that. And if we decide to meet at the gate, then we'll do that. But either way, by 2 p.m., we should be there, and we will leave by 6 p.m. We'll leave by 6 p.m. Some of us have only one day off. We've put off so many things. So let's understand that it might not be as long as we'd like. Yeah, see you guys there. Thank you to all those who contributed for the fare and the entrance fee. I think we are covered. Actually, it will be paid for. Thank you for those who have RSVP'd. We've gotten a number of responses. I'm yet to tally all of them from the events team, but there've been some good responses from people, and there'll be 2 or 3 individuals who are joining us for the first time. They've been active on the group, but they've never come. So I hope that, yes?
Dorcas, I would like to ask Stano a question. I don't know if he's on or he has made a technical appearance. I don't know. I would like to ask him here so that I could get it over and done with. So
Yes.
my question is, he has sent me something, so I don't know if it's for my birthday or fair. I don't know. Maybe ask him. Maybe he would like.
Stano.
No, that is just you invite on a format. So for whatever you need, you just contact me.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, okay. Thank you, Stano. Thank you, Stano, for thank you for showing me love. No homo. Thank you.
He had to emphasize that. Okay. Stano, I was to share with you. Stano, I was to share with you a list of the people that need fare. Right after this meeting. Right after this meeting, I'm going to share with you so that you can send it to them. Even though you have also said you will pay our entrance fee, there are some people who need fare to leave their houses. So I'll let you know right after this meeting. But thank you once again, members. I wish you a good night, a good morning, a good afternoon. Let's meet next Friday for another eye-opening discussion. Bye.
Bye. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you.